When more than one cell come together, similar cells come together, they form tissues. So here I have just outlined a few tissues that we have. The main ones that we have is what we call connective tissue, epithelial tissue, muscle tissue, and nervous tissue. So the connective tissue joins bones and cushions organs so that they do not get injured. Then epithelial tissue covers, we talked about it being a lining that covers the outside of the body as well as lining organs and cavities. Then muscle tissue, of course, helps us in movement, and the nervous tissue is the one that helps us in creating signals, and it works hand in hand with the nerves so that we are able to sense any form of pressure, heat, among other sensations. So this is also a pictorial of just those tissues that I have said, together with their histological images. We've talked about the nervous tissue that will involve the brain, spinal cord, and the nerves. We've talked about epithelial tissue that lines the GI tract and other organs, and also it forms the surface of our skin, that's the epidermis. Muscle tissue, like the cardiac muscle, the smooth muscle, the skeletal muscle, and then connective tissue that will include fat and other soft padding tissues, bone, cartilage, tendons, among others. Then I have put this picture, it's just an emphasis of those particular tissues that we have. This one you can look at it during your free time. So in muscle tissue, we said there's what we call a smooth muscle that enables us to have contractions within, for example, the digestive system. And this smooth muscle lines also the blood vessels. It lines the stomach, it lines the intestines, and also the bladder. And this is important to ensure pressure and also peristalsis during the digestion of food throughout the digestive system from the esophagus until we have excretion. The cartilages, such as the nose cartilage, is a stiff rubbery connective tissue that is composed of cells that we call chondrocytes embedded in a gel-like material which the cells secrete. So cartilages will be found in places such as the joints between bones, and of course also in your ear and nose. The high water content of the cartilage makes it tough but flexible. So it's a kind of a tough connective tissue, but it is also flexible, so it can help even the movement of between bones to make it a little bit cushionable. Then we have dense connective tissue like the knee ligaments, and this contains fibroblast cells that secrete fibrous protein such as type 1 collagen, and these fibers are organized into a regular parallel pattern that usually helps make this tissue very strong, and it occurs in the base layer of the skin and forms structures such as ligaments and tendons that you can see on this diagram that are very helpful, especially on muscle and bone joints. Epithelial tissue, we said these are lining, they line or they cover, like on our skin or on surfaces of certain organs such as the stomach wall, lungs, etc. Now, epithelial tissues usually will also secrete substances such as digestive enzymes, and others can also be important in absorbing substances such as food or water, especially now in the digestive system. Skeletal muscle is a type of muscle tissue that usually will perform voluntary movements of our limbs. And unlike the smooth muscle, which is involuntary, like the peristalsis, which is controlled by the smooth muscle, skeletal muscle is arranged in bundles as we can see here. And this connect to bones via tendons, and they are packed with highly organized filaments that are able to slide over each other to produce contractions, especially during voluntary movement like walking. Spongy bone, I'm sure you have seen this somehow on bones. So these bone cells secrete a hard material that makes bones strong, yet they are also brittle, they can break. So spongy bone is found in the center of the bones and is softer and of course weaker than the compact bone that is outside. And the lattice-like spaces in spongy bones are filled with bone marrow and can also contain connective tissue. And we can see that in this femur bone here, we have the spongy bone tissue. Loose connective tissue, for example, in the dermal or dermis tissue, it is a type of tissue that contains fibroblasts, but fibers they secrete are loosely organized and they run random directions. These are fiber or fibroblast cells, and they are running in different directions, making the tissue quite pliable, and it is not hard, it is loose, and it can be used to cushion or provide support. So the dermal tissue provides support to the skin. Adipose tissue, this has the fat cells or what you call adipocytes, as well as some fibroblast cells, also immune cells and blood vessels, and their work is to store energy in form of fat because it can be used when the stores of carbohydrates have been exhausted, and they also insulate the body and give it heat, especially in cold. That is a subcutaneous fat. We talked about nerves. So the nerves have nerve tissue. This forms the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves that control movement. And of course, transmitting transitions when we have certain sensations in our environment. And they also regulate many other body functions. And it is mainly made up of a network of nerve cells. And here we have just a picture of the spinal cord on the upper part. Of course, we know that it runs towards the pelvic area.